Good morning. We are in Esther chapter 5. I thought we were further along, but I guess we're only at chapter 5. I know there's not much more to go, and then we get to Job, which I look forward to reading Job again. But yeah, let's start in prayer from Matthew chapter 6, verse 9. After this manner, therefore pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Amen. Okay, Esther chapter 5. So what happened last time? And that was only just yesterday. It feels like it's been a week since yesterday. It's kind of the screwy day that I had. I was arguing again with that legalist, and now he's kind of ruined my mood and ruined my attitude about this, you know. When you try to be kind, you try to be generous, you try to be reasonable, and some people just take a dump right in your face, and now I'm kind of angry about it. I don't want to be. I want to be at peace with God and with everybody, and it's not possible in this world we live in, and how stupid everybody is, you know. It's nobody's, yeah. Don't get the Elijah complex, though, and, you know, not everybody is stupid, obviously. It gives you a negative attitude, you know. I think the important thing is just to keep going, and just one more step. We'll see what happens. Don't give up. Very discouraging, though. Hopefully, we'll make it to Job, but probably not with how I talk. So, I'd like to at least get to the end of this book, and hopefully tomorrow we'll start Job, but we'll see. So what happened last time? We saw Esther afraid of going to approach the king over this conspiracy. Haman has sneakily produced a law, got a law slipped in there that allows for the killing of all the Jews, basically a purge event. If you've ever seen The Purge, I've never seen it. I saw the commercial 10 million times for it. It's a movie about one night a year everybody gets to kill each other because there's no laws. So that's what Haman is producing. He's producing a law that says you can now murder Jews and it's not a crime, you know. And obviously this is horrible. And so Mordecai asks Esther to use her power as queen to approach the king, Xerxes or Ahasuerus, and tell him to stop this, you know, stop the law or produce another law that says Jews can now become a bunch of Rambos and we can wipe out anybody who's drawn first blood, you know. So that's where we are. Esther is afraid of approaching the king because anybody who approaches the king can just say, shoot him! You know, instead the king can hold out his scepter and then she can approach. But she's worried about what's going to happen. She prays and fasts to God and asks everybody else to do the same. All the Jews in the area, Mordecai, everybody you know, pray and fast. And she's praying and fasting. And she's going to approach the king, whether she lives or dies. But like I said last time, very pretty lady. It's not likely that the king is just going to throw that away. I mean, the king's not stupid. I mean, he sees Esther, and I think he already loves Esther, so I don't think the king's going to throw that away just for legalism. I think he'll circumvent that, and he does. He's going to hold his scepter out, and she'll be able to approach without being shot. So that's where we are in chapter 5. She's going in. The courage of Esther, verse 1. Now it came to pass on the 3rd day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house over against the gate of the house. And it was so, when the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. See, she probably dressed up in her best dress. She's magnificent. I mean, even more so than she normally is. She's extremely beautiful. But then she puts on her best clothes, best makeup, best hair, whatever. And King already loves her. So when he sees her coming in the court, even though it's normally illegal, he sees her and screw that crap. Come on, hey, please come here, So maybe it's a good example to us to put on our best appearance, and couldn't hurt, right? When I first started these videos, I was wearing fisherman's clothes, just like a plaid shirt. And does it mean I'm supposed to go crazy and buy a wig and get my fingers or my nails done and do all this? Maybe I'm not supposed to go that far. Spend all my money on cosmetics. I don't think. But I think we do the best with what we got. Esther's got a lot. She's very beautiful. She's naturally, God has gifted her with that. But I think he can make use of what's available, and then we can also dress our best, Maybe you look like a complete thug, not to be judgmental about you, but maybe if you put on a nice suit, you'd get more respect from people, I guess. I don't know. There's probably a lesson there, but I'm going to move on. 2. And it was so, when the king... Okay, I read that. 3. Then said the king unto her, What wilt thou, Queen Esther, and what is thy request? It shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom. And Esther answered, If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. Then the king said, Cause Haman to make haste, that he may do as Esther hath said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared. Tell Prime Minister Haman that he must attend this immediately. 6. And the king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine, What is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? Even to the half of the kingdom it shall be performed. She's that good looking. See, the king knows something is wrong. And he sees through this, that this is an elaborate thing. I mean, you'll have it. but I want to know. Come on, I want to know. Let me know. What do you want? I'll give it to you, even half of everything. It's yours. I need to know. But she's going to, I think it's God guiding her tongue, guiding her actions. It's all in the delivery. When does she reveal the truth that she is a Jew and she's in danger? And this guy caused it, you know? When is she going to reveal that? When it's the appropriate time. 7. Then answered Esther and said, My petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition and to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as the king hath said. Just come to the banquet, and then I'll tell you. Okay. 9. Then went Haman forth that day joyful, and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai. Some people are just going to hate you, you know, and this guy just can't. I think it's more than that, though. This guy is a racist. He hates the Jews, hates Mordecai for no reason. He should know, being a Jew, the Jews bow to God. They pray to God. They kneel before God, not before Zod, okay? So he should know that, but he's a Amalekite. Amalekites are pretty much a rival, a major villain, enemy of the Jewish people. God told them to wipe them all out. Saul failed to do that all that time ago, and now we have Haman the Agagite, who should have been dead if they had listened to what God was telling them to do, but they didn't listen, and now here we are. Very dangerous situation. But his hatred, his indignation against Mordecai, I think in a normal situation, Mordecai probably would have bowed if he was not a Jew, you know. Everybody bowed to this Haman, but Mordecai doesn't. I think in any other situation, Haman would just roll his eyes at, and wouldn't care. But I think Satan is in some form of control of this guy, causing all of these events to take place. But God is going to overrule this situation. He's not going to allow his people to be completely wiped out. That's not going to happen. 10. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friends and Zeresh his wife. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches, and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the princes and servants of the king. So humble. Haman said, moreover, Yes, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared, but myself, and tomorrow am I invited unto her also with the king. I'm such an amazing man. Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's table. Then said Zeresh his wife, and all his friends unto him, Let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king, that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made. McGee points this out, that how Satan and evil, have you ever planned to hang someone? Have you set up a gallows 50 feet high to hang somebody? Have you ever gone that far to getting your revenge on someone? I get 2 feet with it, and it's not really worth it. It's better that way, that God just give it to God. You don't need to hang anybody, you know. But if you're in control of, if Satan is in control of you, this is how far you're willing to go. Over, this is one guy. You're willing to go through all this effort over one guy. How prideful, how ridiculous. Can't you just let it go? No, Mordecai has to die. Okay. It's going to cost you. Chapter 6. Haman compelled to exalt Mordecai. I'd like to read through chapter 8, but we'll see how far we get here. Verse 1. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. And the king said, What honor and dignity hath been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, There is nothing done for him. And the king said, Who is in the court? Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house, to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servants said unto him, Behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, Let him come in. See now, you know what the key is? It's in verse 1. On that night could not the king sleep. You'd think with all these beautiful women all around him, all the booze he's got, all his drugs, he's probably got his mountain of cocaine sitting there like Scarface, you know. He's probably got everything you could imagine, and yet he can't sleep. Why is that? I think it's because God sent some spirit to wake him up and make him restless. So that, all right, let's take a look at the books. I'm curious about the books. Are we bringing in enough coke today? Did we get 10 keys? You know? And so he's got to take a look at the book now. Sorry, I didn't mean to use the drug reference. It's probably not a good thing for me to say. As I was told this morning by the legalist that you're going to hell because you watched Scarface, or that you appreciate Macbeth. Yes, I'm going to burn in hell for that. Great. I don't think God is as stupid as you are. Sorry. That's terrible. See? See how this... I need to ban him. I really need to ban him. He's hurt me so many times. Alright, where was I? Six. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, What shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, To whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself? And Haman answered the king, For the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Then the king said to Haman, Make haste, and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew, that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. Notice, Mordecai the Jew, that's the words out of the king's mouth. He knows he's a Jew. Does he remember the law that he just passed? You know? And does he know that his queen is a Jew? It's all going to dawn on him all at once, and you're dead, you know. But he's too drunk, and he's too high on his cocaine he doesn't know what's going on. So, but God intervenes. His spirit makes him restless so that he looks at the books and he notices, hey, this guy tried to kill me. It was the Colombians with a chainsaw. They were coming after me. But this guy Mordecai, he took him out. This is one of my guys. Hey, whatever Mordecai wants. Yeah, let's honor him. Let's do this. Let's do this for him, you know. How humiliating for Haman, right? 11. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, Thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. And Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hasted to his house mourning and having his head covered. Yeah, how humiliating. This is the guy that, see how you should have just let it go, you know, but so prideful, he's controlled by Satan. It's sad. 13. And Haman told Zeresh, and that's a good example to us of why God says to love your enemies and pray for your enemies, because this is all a spiritual overtone with it, you know. And Mordecai doesn't have to do much for God. For God to intervene and take care of this whole situation. It's God all in the background. God isn't directly mentioned in this book, but you can see him taking care of all of this. And same thing with us, you know. I have people that hate me every day, you know, and just make my day miserable. That guy who makes me miserable when I have to read his dumb legalistic comments every morning, you know. God's going to take care of him. God's going to slap him in the mouth. Or I'm going to ban him when I get home. I'm not sure. I haven't decided yet. But the point is, God is going to deal with him. God is going to deal with your enemies. You should be praying for God's mercy, really. Because I think God is going to deal with them much more harshly than anything I could. You know, my right hook, you know. It's pathetic. It's not going to do the situation justice. So, should let God take care of that. Uh, 13. And Haman told Zeresh his wife and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him, If Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him. And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains, and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. Wow. So really, before the banquet should have even begun, what Haman should have done, and he's probably exhausted and embarrassed, but he should have been right away, just told the king, you know, that law that I passed, it was a mistake, Lord. I see now how great Mordecai is, how Mordecai is your servant, and what Mordecai did for you, saving your life from those Colombians with their chainsaws, you know. My king, I'm sorry for that law that I passed. Can we pass another law? You know, he should have been on his knees immediately, and maybe the king would have at least been a little, probably not, but see, the thing is, he's exhausted, and now he's ushered to this banquet. He doesn't even know what's going on. He's not thinking clearly. And even his wife and his advisors, his secretaries, his servants are telling him, you know, if God is with these people, you really can't do anything against them. You really screwed up big time here, Haman. Yeah. Well, are you ready to attend the banquet? Now is the time to go, Haman. Say goodbye to Zeresh and your servants. And he doesn't even have time to think about it. I'm going to read through chapter 7, hopefully really quick here. It's pretty much just him getting killed. So we're going to read it really quick. Chapter 7, Esther's banquet. Haman hanged. Verse 1. So the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, What is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom. Then Esther the queen answered and said, If I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, Who is he, and where is he, that durst presume in his heart to do so? So verse 4 is talking about the law that was passed, that all the Jews are now going to be wiped out for no reason, basically, just because Haman hates Mordecai. It's actually Satan controlling Haman, and Satan actually hates all the Jews. Satan wants all the Jews killed, but really, we go back and we read that when Haman initially passed the law back in verse 15 of chapter 3, the post went out, being hastened by the king's commandments, and the decree was given in Shushan the palace, and the king and Haman sat down to drink. But the city Shushan was perplexed. That's the line right there. Like, logically, what sense does this law make? So it's now legal for you to just wipe out this group of people? It doesn't make sense. So, I forget what my point was, but it's a satanic conspiracy. It's Satan wants this accomplished. Now, directly, Haman himself, why does he? It's just pride. Pride and jealousy and racism, hatred. An Amalekite. Maybe it's the giant gene. Maybe the giant gene can be directly controlled by Satan. I don't know. Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, Who is he, and where is he that does presume in his heart to do so? Didn't we just read in chapter 3, verse 15, that you were sitting down drinking with the guy, you passed the law, he was right there. Why do you ask that question? He must be always drunk, or he must be always on that cocaine, I don't know. But he's really not thinking clearly. But once he thinks clearly, you better run. 6. And Esther said, The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman. Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. Yeah, you should be. That's it. See, the right moment. If it had been done at the wrong moment, Haman might have gotten some guys together to assassinate the king, and then maybe Haman would have stolen the kingdom. I don't know. Lots of things could have happened. It's all in the timing. How do you time it just perfectly to where your statement has the most direct effect? Esther did that perfectly. She planned this out perfectly, and God was guiding her hand, guiding her tongue, guiding her actions, because she went to God first and prayed and fasted to Him, and everybody is praying and fasting for this situation. And praise God, it's now finally some justice is going to be fulfilled here. 7. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen, for he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine, and Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was. Then said the king, Will he force the queen also before me in the house? As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. And Harbona, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, Behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman. Then the king said, Hang him thereon. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. I wouldn't want to fall into Xerxes' hands, That's Xerxes, Nebuchadnezzar, these are dangerous kings. They're kind of double-minded. They're kind of all over the place. Darius, But thankfully, God uses each one of these characters, Cyrus. He's using them to overrule what Satan is planning out in this time of captivity, So praise God, the immediate danger is pacified. Haman's gone, so the origin of the evil is gone, but the law remains. And we'll be concluding Esther next time, and we'll see how they're going to have to pass a different law. The law can't be removed at this point. So we'll see how that all plays out next time. Thank you for listening. Have a blessed day.